now that my daughter has turned 5 and we're midway through the year and I know she's starting school at the beginning of next year, I'm conscious of her getting too bored, and so I want to make sure that she is still being challenged and that she's ready to start school as well as she can. Sara, what are some of the things from a literacy perspective that we can do with our kids to make sure they're ready for school?
Okay, well, probably the singular most important thing that you can do with your child is to read to them and to share books with them. I could talk about this in more depth later probably, but reading is so incredibly valuable. They pick up so many important cues about literacy and how to turn into a really confident reader later, that reading with them, I honestly think, would be, if you never did anything else, that would be the one thing to do. But in addition to that, there are lots of other things that you can do. And when children are learning to read, the first skill that they really need to master is phonological awareness. So this is the ability to hear small sounds, individual sounds in words. And so, you know, I guess a program like Reading Eggs that uses lots of playful songs, nursery rhymes, stories, all these kind of things are great to do with young children and get them to, you know, play around with sound, listen to words that sound the same, and what sound does your name start with, and can you think of anything else that starts with that sound? And then moving on into letters and sounds, maybe giving them some of those plastic letters on the fridge, the magnetic letters, that they can make words with. And also moving on from that, looking at actually writing letters. If you, around the age of 5, it's probably a good time to start looking at that pencil grip as well. So they'll be doing letter strings. These are these random kind of gobbledygook kind of bit of writing that they do that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a really important milestone in their learning. And if you've seen babies, when they're writing, they tend to hold everything in their fist and it all comes from the shoulder. But as they get older and a bit more sophisticated, you get this, all their fingers sort of holding. But what we want to do is try to get them to hold the pencil in a tripod grip, because when they start school, it just means that they've got a lot more control for letter formation. So all these things you can be doing at home, and and just building up that literacy skill before they start.
And when should you start reading to a child? Like, is there an age that's too early?
No, newborn.
In utero.
Yes, absolutely. Tell them stories. It's never too early. Seriously, even newborns, because reading to a child just has lots of benefits, but obviously there's that nurturing side of it too. And so just cuddling up with someone with the story
it's one of my
so
favourite
lovely.
parts of the day, sitting my 2-year-old on my knee and cuddling in and reading with him just before bed.
It's a really special time. So reading any time. And, you know, don't just make it bedtime, because traditionally, I mean, we still do bedtime reading now. We're saying our daughters are 11. But, you know, it's any time of the day. Read whenever you can. You know, if you're just waiting at the doctor's or on a bus or on a train, reading is really good. The more you read. There's a lot of research about the value of reading aloud to children. And there was a really interesting research not too long ago in America. I don't know how they did this, but they got MRIs done on 3 to 5-year-olds. So how you get a 3-year-old to sit still in an MRI, I've got no idea. But they did it, and while they were having the MRI, they had the child listen to a story. And they noticed afterwards that the children who were from backgrounds where there was a lot of reading, these print-rich backgrounds where reading stories were done every day, the children in their brain, the part of their brain that links with visual imagery and narrative comprehension, that was most active in children that were read to, as opposed to those that weren't. So there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that it does actually affect the way the brain develops. You probably
know
true.
All this. I think you made a really important point before about the bonding and attachment that it goes on. Actually, I'm really interested in that, because a lot of children, that come in for help often have difficulties with anxiety and problems bonding and attaching with parents, especially in situations where, we have families, all sorts of families that come in and that we work with. But bonding and attachment is really critical at that age, and reading is a really good way to improve that bond and build on that attachment from a very early age. So I think that is really important. I mean, besides play, reading is just one of those critical things that you can do to build up an attachment and secure attachment in a child.
I did read somewhere the other day, someone said to me that it only takes 20 minutes for a child's emotional cup to fill up, and that's all they need from you, is just to spend that 20 minutes at a time dedicated to them. Is that right?
Well, I don't think it's about the quantity of time, but rather what you do, and I guess it depends on the age and stage of the child as well. But it's about making them feel valued and respected, and listening to them, and showing that you care about their perspective, and that's all important. Helping them label their emotions, and helping them understand the world, and getting their input when you're making decisions, family decisions around holidays or where to eat, that kind of stuff, getting their input. So that's about emotional connectivity. And I guess that's what it is, filling that cup. But I don't think it's an amount of time per se. It's about every moment and every opportunity, making it count. Yeah.
And now emotionally as well, when a child's preparing for school, what are some of the things that we can do to help them make sure that they can get through that gate on their own on the first day without both of you being in floods of tears?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the individual child. The things that you really want to look out for are their gross motor skills and fine motor skills, which you mentioned earlier, their social skills and communication skills, and their cognitive skills, so their ability to, reason and do things in a timely fashion, and that kind of stuff. So when you're looking out for all those things, I guess there'll be individual differences between children on those skills, but we do have sort of some kind of range that we'd expect. So if a child's performing, say, slightly below in a particular area, or not quite ready in a particular area, then you should focus on maybe getting intervention early in that particular area to assist them to thrive later. For example, if they've got some difficulties with social skills, you can enrol them in a social skills program, for example, or if there's some difficulties with articulation and pronunciation of words, then maybe consulting a speech pathologist would be a good idea. Likewise, if there's some difficulties with fine motor or gross motor for their age, then you can consult an occupational therapist and get some assistance there as well.
And how would you know there's an issue if you don't have someone to compare to, you don't have another child that they're around perhaps that you see on a regular basis? Is that something where you need to get that feedback from preschool teachers?
I think
from
preschool
friends?
teachers offer a lot of good feedback. Sometimes they can be alarmist, but I do think that it's very helpful for you to get that feedback. So if the preschool teacher or the daycare carer was to say something like, little Sophia is showing some signs of difficulty with holding, a crayon or a pencil, or she's not shown dominance in one hand yet, and we're a little concerned because next year she's going to school and she'll be required to use one hand when she starts kindy, then you might think about consulting a occupational therapist for assistance with fine motor skill development.
And from a reading perspective, should a child, would you like to have them at a certain level before they start school?
No, I think it's important to foster a love of learning. So with reading and literacy, I think it's most important to read them books that they want to read about, and building on their interests. I think
Choice is really important.
Choice is really important.
One thing you have to do as well is don't be heartbroken if your child doesn't want to read the books that you read when you were little, because they never do.
Yeah.
I've discovered this. And so you have to just, I guess as a parent, you have to just guide them and show them what's available as opposed to choosing for them.
Why do kids want to hear the same book 5 times in a row?
Why is that? They drive you mad.
No expert.
Repetition, if it's a story, it's a message that they want to hear continually. It might be comforting for them too, and it might be more about who's reading it rather than what you're reading or what goes on during that story.
Could be what you associate with the story. But it's a great party trick when your child's read that book so many times that they know it off by heart.
It's also very handy for when you're tired at the end of the day and you don't actually have to read it. You can just sit there and turn the pages.
You have this 3-year-old sit there just reading it aloud and everyone's going, wow, she can read already. Yeah.
Reading eggs.